them right now.
Good evening and welcome to the December 14th meeting of the Lowell License Commission. Secretary Pires, was the meeting posted?
It was.
Roll call, please.
Commission Chair Dakota.
Here.
Commissioner Krieger.
Present.
Commissioner Howe.
Here.
Commissioner Mercier.
Here.
Commissioner Tang. Here. 5 present. 0th is the acceptance of the November 30th, 2023 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval with one correction. There's a bad date on the last paragraph of the minutes. It says 30 November. It should say 14 December.
You going to apologize to Commissioner Krieger, Mr. Pires, or?
I did a few times earlier.
Motion by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 1 of the agenda, please.
Application by Patrick Fitzgibbons, Area Mark, for a special one-day license to sell, dispense malt beverages and wines for an engineering department event on Thursday, December 14th, 2023, from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Emerging Technologies and Innovation Center at UMass Lowell, 40 University Ave.
Good evening. State your name for the record, please.
Patrick Fitzgibbons.
How are you, Patrick? Back again? All right. Tell us about your event, please.
We have a reception going on in about 1 hour at E-Tech, about 100 people, civil engineering group, beer, wine, reception, food
In 1 hour?
in 1 hour.
You're in tough shape here.
Just got to roll with the punches.
All right. Any questions or comments for the applicant?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Commissioner Howe, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Patrick, have a good time tonight.
Have a good day.
You bet.
Petition to amend an all-alcoholic beverages license operating hours from a 12 midnight closing time to 1 a.m. by Spiderloom Productions, LLC, doing business as Taffeta, 122 Western Ave, Unit 162, Sean Gordon, License Manager.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Good evening, Sean Gordon.
How are you, Sean?
Well, yourself?
Business is doing well then?
Yeah, I haven't been here in a while, so.
Yeah. So we want to move it up to 1 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, just we've had a few events that have thought it would be nicer to just be able to be open a little bit later, so
Yeah.
we went through the process. It's not going to be something we use often, but we just want to have the option.
Good move. Secretary Pires, are all the applications in for 2024? Renewals?
Yes.
They are?
Well, all of the basic requirements are met. Some of the additional things are on the way. His is complete.
Fantastic. All right. Questions or comments for the applicant?
Second.
Move for approval by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Sean, you're all set.
Thanks, guys. Have a great
Take
holiday.
care. Happy holidays.
Public hearing for an application by Ambersea Incorporated, doing business as Indian Pizzeria, Power Project, proposed license manager for an all-alcoholic beverages restaurant license for premises at 1717 Middlesex Street, Unit Number 3.
Good evening. State your name for the record, sir.
My name is Van Lee, and I'm here for my client, Prabjo Kaur. She has an ultrasound. She's having.
And she's joined us on Zoom.
But she's joining by Zoom.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is
How are you
Prabjot
tonight?
Kaur.
Good.
Good, how
You
are you?
okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll let counsel speak for you, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Madam and sir, our applicant is an experienced restaurant owner. She has another restaurant in Somerville and one in Cambridge. She has an beer and wine license in Somerville and an all-alcohol license in Cambridge. She has operated successfully. These two restaurants survived through COVID and actually did quite well in recent years. Her restaurant at 1717 Middlesex Street is also doing quite well and serving the community by offering innovative veggie crust pizza as well as your traditional Indian cuisine. Her customer base has requested that at least beer and wine and alcohol be available as part of their dining experience. We believe that this is also a community service because the Indian community does not have a place to really meet, they have to go to Boston. I'm not sure you're aware, but there is a nice sized community in this area. And they really, there is a Hindu temple for worshiping, but in terms of community gatherings, there really isn't. And she has realized that her restaurant is often used for family reunions and events and like. So we think this expansion will help further serve the community. Again, Ms. Kaur is an experienced operator already. There's been no complaints in the other two places where she has alcohol license. I've known Ms. Kaur for many years now. She is honest, hardworking, and she's a very smart business person, and we hope that the commission will consider her application.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, sir.
Captain Peasley, Secretary Pires, can you verify that the applicant has not had any complaints brought for them in the other cities that she's had a license with?
I can do that. I don't
Please.
have it done now, but I can do that.
You can do that? All right. I probably would make that, once we're done discussing, I would make that part of the motion that we accept it, knowing that there's no complaints against the applicant. All right. Further questions or comments? Commissioner Howe?
It's my understanding you're looking for an all-alcohol
Yes, ma'am.
license.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the application say just beer and wine?
It did, and we, with the help of Mr. Pires, we amended the application to indicate all alcohol.
All right, just want to make sure before it goes down to the ABCC. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, thank you.
Commissioner Mercia, Commissioner Tang, anything? All set? Commissioner Krieger?
How much headroom does that leave us with this license? Secretary Pye.
How many other licenses are available?
How much space do we have for issuing licenses? This the last one?
No, this is an all-alcoholic. There's plenty of them, I
We got
believe.
plenty?
We have quite a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah. We're at maximum, though, with beer and wine, right?
For package stores.
Package stores, right, okay, all right,
Package
that's
stores.
fine. Hearing no other comments, I would make the motion that we...
Public hearing.
Oh. You think I'll remember this by the next meeting when I'm out of here? All right, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. There's motion on the floor by the chairman to accept, making sure that we have no other further, any additional complaints from the applicant in the other cities or towns that she holds licenses for. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. You're all set, sir? All right. Good luck with your ultrasound tonight.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Violation hearing regarding allegations of misconduct charged against Boston Tonight LLC, doing business as Trend, 15 and 19 to 25 Merrimack Street, Lawrence Creticos, licensed manager, all alcoholic beverages restaurant licensee. Allegations of misconduct occurred on October 13th and 14th, 2023, regarding compliance with all laws and regulations.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. Attorney Amanda Flores on behalf of Boston Tonight LLC.
My name is Evangelos Kritikos, and I just want to say thank you for rescheduling and sorry for being sick the last time.
Understand. Fully understand. So what I'm going to do right now is going to let Captain Peasley read the complaint into the record.
John, I'm also here.
I'm sorry, who are you, sir?
Sorry, my name is Lawrence. I'm the one who's on the record as being the manager on file right now. I was told to be on because I was on record. However, it was just because of some miscommunication in terms of paperwork that needed to get filed. And now everything is being finalized, but my name was just on file, even though I had left the business relatively soon to it opening. So I just wanted to make sure I stated that I was here for the matter.
Secretary Pius, help me out with this.
The business is in the process of changing their license manager.
But he is,
Lawrence is
still the manager of record.
He's still the manager of record.
All right, in which he'll be transferring the license
Proposed
to
manager.
Evan.
Evan. And,
Evan.
And
Okay.
everything has been filed with the ABCC.
Okay. All right, I understand. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to have Captain Peasley read the complaint into the record, and then we'll go from there. Captain?
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Lowell Police Department respectfully requests that enforcement action be taken against Boston Tonight Limited Liability Company, which does business as Trend Nightclub, located at 19 to 25 Merrimack Street, for the violations that took place during the evening hours of October 13th, 2023, and the early morning hours of October 14th, 2023, specifically violations of Section 1.06, compliance with all laws and regulations, Section 1.16, manager's responsibility, which means that managers at all times shall maintain order and decorum in the premises and in all immediate surroundings, areas adjacent to the licensed premise. Also, Section 2.16, cover charge. No licensee shall require any person to pay minimum cover charge unless a sign is conspicuously posted at every entrance to the area where the cover charge is required. The said cover charge can only be charged upon a written or printed receipt, permanently recorded and numbered and presented to each customer or group of customers. Friday evening, October 13th, 2023, at approximately 11:20 p.m., officers assigned to the Lowell Police Vice Narcotics Unit conducted a compliance check of Trend. Upon entering the establishment, detectives checked for proof of age of patrons observed in possession of alcohol beverages who appeared to be potentially under the age of 21 years of age. Lowell Police Detective Connor Elmore observed a male in possession of an alcoholic beverage, which turned out to be a Corona beer, and requested identification to confirm his age. The patron stated to the officer that he did not possess any form of identification. However, due to past interactions with this male, the vice detective was familiar with this patron's true name and age. The male was escorted outside the establishment, and upon further speaking to Detective Elmore, the male said he was 20 years of age with a true birth date to be April 22nd, 2003. Detective Elmore then queried the man's information through the Massachusetts registry system and confirmed that the male was indeed 20 years of age in violation of Mass General Law 138, Section 34C. The male was informed he was going to be summoned into court using the mailing address he provided, and he was not allowed back into the establishment. This incident is a violation of Section 106 referenced above. While continuing to walk through the premises, Sergeant David Lally observed the establishment had set up 2 tables in front of the main bar area with red Solo cups placed in a triangular formation. Several patrons who were holding and drinking beer were observed to be throwing a ping pong ball into the red Solo cups. He immediately recognized this to be a popular drinking game called beer pong. Detective Lally then brought this matter to the attention of a male on premises named Evan Kratakos, who stated that he was the bar manager for the evening. Mr. Kratakos stated that there was only water in the cups. However, the encouraging or permitting of any contest or game that promotes or allows drinking as prizes or part of a contest is violation of Mass CMR 204, Section 4.03, and therefore violation of Section 106 referenced above. Vice Lieutenant Stephen Coyle then had the opportunity to speak with the doorman who was positioned at the front door. During this conversation, Lieutenant Coyle found the bar was charging a $10 entrance cover charge. He then brought this matter to the attention of Mr. Kratakos and informed him that the Vice unit did not observe any signs posted at the entrance informing patrons of this cover charge. Additionally, Lieutenant Coyle noted the bar was not handing out the required printed receipts to the patrons who paid for the cover fee. Again, this cover charge matter is a violation of Section 2.16. At approximately 1:40 a.m., now in the early morning hours of October 14, 2023, officers Exelakis and DeMello were positioned on the sidewalk outside of Trend, monitoring the large crowd that was exiting the nightclub. As the crowd grew in size, they did not observe any attempts by the Trend staff to prevent the crowd from loitering in the immediate area in front of the entrance door. They estimated the crowd to be more than 200 people. Without warning and almost simultaneously, several violent fights broke out in front of Trend, and it was observed and noted in a police report authored by Officer Nicole Manera, who was here as well, that the street immediately in front of Trend, as well as other areas of vicinity, had active fights going on. It should be noted that in this block and in this area, there are no other businesses opened at this time of night other than Trend that would have accounted for this large crowd. The violent crowd immediately overwhelmed the on-duty police officers, and mutual aid had to be called in to control this violent crowd. Mass State Police, UMass Lowell, Chelmsford Police, and Dracut Police had to respond for assistance. As a result, 6 combatants were placed under arrest, and 3 Lowell police officers were sent to the hospital for treatment due to injuries suffered as a result of being assaulted by the crowd. failure of the Trend staff to monitor the crowd, to prevent the loitering in front of the main entrance, and failure to maintain order and decorum inside the premises and in all immediate surrounding areas adjacent to the licensed premise is a violation of Section 1.16 that I already referenced above. For the reasons stated, the Lowell Police Superintendent is requesting that the License Commission take action against the Trend nightclub for these offenses. City Solicitor Tom Wood would like to also kind of expand on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Law Department did want to address one of the potential violations, 204 Code of Massachusetts Regulations, Section 4.031H, which is the drinking game regulation. We anticipate that one of the expected defenses is that they were playing water pong and not beer pong, and I did attempt to research this question to determine what the ABCC's position on that type of an issue is. And there was an ABCC decision that I found dated January 27, 2017, concerning a Chicopee-based business, Christopher Prost, doing business as PG Hunter's Pub. And in that decision, which was an appeal to the ABCC of the Chicopee License Commission's finding of an illegal drinking game occurring, specifically beer pong, the license manager asserted that he had water pong, not a beer game, on top of the pool table. And the ABCC found that those arguments were, quote, not persuasive, and the commission finds that the licensee committed these two violations and holds that the sanctions imposed to be reasonable and in compliance with the rules promulgated by the local board of Chicopee. So the regulation at issue does not only prohibit the permitting of drinking games, but also prohibits the encouragement of drinking games. And so the Law Department would advise the Commission that to the extent that it finds that there was water pong occurring and not beer pong, this would also constitute a violation of Section 4.03, subsection 1H. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Thank you, Captain Peasley. Councilor?
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So the type of establishment that Evan is intending to run is not reflected in the observations of Superintendent Houdon's letter or having to appear here tonight. And so we would like to address each of the issues in turn and the steps that have been taken since the allegations to ensure future compliance. So the first issue presented was that a man under 21 years old was found in possession of alcohol at Trend. Trend prides itself in being a 21-plus venue, unlike other establishments in Lowell that do allow 18-plus nights. This incident, as well as the fight that occurred later that night, reveals security flaws. Trend hires an outside company to provide security, and this is actually the same company that Gillette Stadium uses. The door security is in charge of scanning IDs using IntelliCheck, which enables bar staff to save time when taking orders and serving customers. The minor in question had actually jumped over the back fence, circumventing the back guard on duty, and the guard could not give an adequate description to the staff inside to locate him. Because of this incident, outside security cameras were installed. A new stamp policy is being implemented, so IDs are not only checked at the door by security, but hands are also stamped, showing that that person's IDs have been checked, and bartenders and staff will look for stamped hands as well. Permits to heighten the back fence are being sought, as the height of the back fence is a security concern. And I do have photos to share with the Commission regarding the back fence, if I can pass them.
That's fine.
And the individual that jumped the fence has been permanently banned from Trend. The second issue, I'll let you look at the fence. So as you can see, it is, much lower than the fence adjacent to it, and so that is a security concern that is being fixed.
So that's the fence that's presently up there.
Correct.
And you're going to install a taller fence.
Correct.
Okay.
The second issue is that a beer pong game was observed. This game was not for competitive drinking purposes and was being played with water. Side tables are provided for the players to keep their alcoholic drinks safe, segregated, and within eyesight while they play. Drinking is not a consequence or a prize, and Evan has stepped in at times when players have tried to encourage otherwise. Customers are monitored to prevent drinking while playing. On the date of the particular incident, nothing was advertised as pong games. However, when pong tables are put out by the establishment, they are not advertised as tournaments or anything competitive. In segregating alcohol, playing with water, and not having tournaments, Evan understood he was in compliance with the law. Even if it is the case that he is in compliance with the law, And the commission recommends that all Pong be stopped, Trend will stop putting out tables. So I know co-counsel had read a 2017 decision, but in 2013, the ABCC issued a decision in Good Bar on this issue stating, to avoid violating this regulation when providing equipment for a game such as beer pong, a licensee cannot permit drinking as a consequence or poorly performing in the game and must take reasonable steps not to permit it. Such reasonable steps may include prohibiting possession of alcoholic beverages while playing. And I do have copies of that decision if the commission would like it. And again, even though we believe Trend is taking the necessary precautions by segregating alcohol versus play, if it's the commission's position to stop all play, absolutely we will. And I have that decision highlighted.
Counselor, what's your response to City Solicitor Wood's?
Our position is not the fact that that they're playing with water, but that alcohol is to be segregated from the tables. And we do believe that that is within ABCC's guidance in Good Bar. And I have that tab.
Okay. Captain Peasley, I know you have quite a few people that were from the Lowell Police Department here. I'd like to ask, did they see any alcohol with the players that were playing beer pong at that time?
Yes, so if I reread the complaint, Mr. Commissioner, if I could, and Sergeant Lally is here, he observed several patrons who were holding and drinking beer and observed to be throwing the the ping pong ball into the red Solo cup.
And we acknowledge
I'm
that
sorry.
that was represented as well in the letter. What my position is that is not the policy, and if further steps need to be taken, if the commission believes, yes, segregating alcohol is sufficient, we will have staff on standby to make sure that people are not holding a beer, throwing a ball. The alcohol should be at that segregated side table at all times.
Mr. Commissioner.
Well, I know the. Had alcohol while they were playing beer pong. Don't you think they would have said to stop that?
So the Gillette Stadium security is only checking IDs in by the door, and that is something that I will address a little further on about hiring more of that same security.
So Mr. Katakis was the only management there that night? Correct. Controlling the crowd?
Correct.
Of nearly 200 people? Okay, you can continue, Counselor.
Okay. With respect to the cover charge violation, Evan allows musicians and other acts to collect entrance fees to encourage bigger names to perform at the venue. It was not until this incident that Evan learned that even though he was not personally collecting money or that the establishment was not the one collecting the money, that the receipts and the signage were necessary. So upon finding this out, he immediately bought receipt tickets and created appropriate signage. And that being said, and due to upcoming hearings that we will be at the end of this month, he wanted to point out that when covers are collected, that is when the receipts and the signage go up. So, for example, if cover charges don't start until 10 p.m., then anyone who entered the premises before 10 p.m. would not have a receipt. And we do believe that is what happened at an incident that we'll discuss.
So no monies were taken before 10 o'clock? Is that what you're telling me?
Correct. And if you want to speak to that. Okay. So basically, if there's no one that has shown up in the crowd, there's no reason. Someone is not going to enter Trend because there's not that many people there. They're not charging. They're encouraging people to come in and not charging. And so.
Now, is Lawrence Katai, are we brothers here? Is this?
Correct.
Okay, so as the manager of record, he would absolutely know the rules and regulations, but Evan doesn't know the rules and regulations?
Evan, through this process, has refamiliarized himself with rules and regulations and will continue to do so that he does not have to appear before you on these issues again.
That's weak, Counselor.
I'm sorry?
That's weak. I don't buy it.
So if the issue is...
Continue on.
Yeah, with the respect to the cover charges, if the issue is that everyone should be given receipts irrespective of if there's a cover charge at that particular time, if that is going to ease police officers entering the property and having, raising this violation or even the commission's concerns, that's also something he's willing to do. So if he plans to have a cover charge at 10:30 p.m. and has to start giving tickets to everyone that enters to ensure that, if someone were to be asked for a receipt, that he would be able to provide one for everyone, even if that receipt was showing zero sums charged. We want to comply with the rule in whatever way necessary. Okay. And then with respect to the fight, I, obviously want to apologize to the police officers for the scene that they, landed themselves upon. Very unfortunate and very sorry that that happened. The fight that occurred the morning of the 14th was unfortunate. It happened across the street at the closed Dunkin' Donuts. The customers were leaving Trend at the time. While the counters used by Trend, security suggests that only 164 people were coming and going that night. Evan fully appreciates that loitering was a problem and has spoken to his staff about segregating kickout and better monitoring crowds. That being said, beyond staff retraining, Evan has added 2 more security cameras to the front of the building, tested the current video capture feed and angles of the already existing cameras in the front. He has also permanently banned all those involved in the fight and is looking to hire security to specifically handle egress, loitering at the end of the night, and also putting trash barrels by his exit so that there's nothing blowing in from the street.
Okay. Anything further, Counselor?
I think that's it.
Captain Pizzi?
Defer to the city solicitor.
City solicitor.
He's gonna
What-
call a couple of the
Go right in.
witnesses up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The city solicitor will first call Lieutenant Stephen Coyle.
Sir, state your name for the record.
Lieutenant Stephen Coyle, Lowell Police Department.
All right. Lieutenant Coyle, I wanted to focus your attention to the compliance check that Lowell PD conducted at Trend on October 13th, 2023 at approximately 11:15 p.m. Could you please tell the commission what you first observed when you arrived?
It's the same thing whenever I go to check a licensed establishment. I go to the doorman, ask him what the capacity is, see if he's on top of his game, what he knows what he has inside, and what he knows what the actual capacity he can have inside. I think on that night he said there was 160. I think the inside hall holds 200. At that time, the gentleman that worked with me, Sergeant Lally, and the detectives went inside to check for underage drinkers and any other violations. I then proceeded through the first door, and I observed a podium. At the podium, it appeared they were collecting money. At no time did I see a sign for a cover charge, so I was kind of intrigued. So I asked the young girl who was there if she was collecting a cover charge. She said she was collecting money for the DJ, and I asked her how much they were collecting from each patron, and there was confusion. They said 20, they said 10. The final number that came out was 10. So I then went back outside. The detective stayed inside. Sergeant Lally can elaborate to anything after that. I spoke to Evan after that about the cover charge and how I believed it should happen with handing out receipts and having numbered receipts and having a sign somewhere that said they were collecting a cover charge so the patrons could know there was a cover charge and know exactly how much that cover charge would be.
All right. And, sir, when you advised the manager, Mr. Kritikos, did he give any response when you had indicated to him the cover charge issue?
I think when I spoke to him about the cover charge, he didn't understand that he was supposed to have those things there. I think he was receptive to what I was saying.
Okay. And just so that the record is clear, you observed that there was no sign regarding the cover charge and no receipts were not being given out?
No.
All right. Thank you, sir. The solicitor has no further questions. If any of the members of the commission have any, I'll defer to the commission. Thank you.
Are you bringing anybody
We
else?
are.
Okay. Counselor, would you like to ask questions of? Okay, thank you.
All right. City solicitor will call Sergeant David Lally.
Sir, state your name for the record.
Sergeant David Lally, Lowell Police Department.
All right. Sergeant Lally, I want to turn to October 13th, 2023. Were you at Trend at the same time as Lieutenant Coyle?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the commission what you observed, sir?
Yeah, we were doing an alcohol compliance check at the bar. The lieutenant spoke with the man working the door. I proceeded in with the 4 of the detectives, and As I walked in, I observed on the left there was 2 pong tables set up, and there were 4 people around the pong table. They had beers in their hand, and they were playing pong. And then I observed one of my detectives escorting a male out of the establishment. So I went and spoke with the male. It was the male who was 20 years old, and he was drinking a Corona at the time.
All right. Let me start with the beer pong issue. So when you first observed the beer pong, did you end up speaking with the manager, Mr. Kretikos?
I didn't speak to him right when I saw it. After I dealt with everything, me and the lieutenant spoke with him afterwards.
And could you tell the commission when you ultimately did speak with Mr. Kretikos what you said to him and what he responded to?
I explained to him that I believed that the pong game was a violation. I did check the red cups. There were water in it. He advised me that it wasn't a violation. I said, well, anything that promotes drinking game is considered a violation, and I left it at that.
And just to be clear, when you saw the drinking game, when you saw the 4 individuals who were present around that game, were they holding alcoholic beverages?
At least 2 of them were holding a beer.
All right. And then on the underage drinking issue, can you tell us what you observed on that?
As I said, when I walked in, after a couple minutes, I saw that Detective Elmore was escorting a male out to the front of the building. I followed him out. Detective Elmore advised that the kid was only 20 years old and he was drinking a Corona.
And did the 20-year-old indicate how he was able to get to the bar in the first place?
He said he just walked in.
And did he indicate whether anyone had asked him for any ID?
He said that no one had.
All right. Solicitor has no further questions to this witness. If the commission has any questions or if counsel has any questions, I'll...
Counselor? Right to the lectern, Counselor, please. Thank you.
Do you recall what kind of drinks you observed the players playing pong holding?
I know at least one had a beer bottle.
Thank you.
All right. Solicitor now calls Officer Drayson DeMello.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you, Officer.
State your name for the record, sir.
Officer DeMello, Lowell Police Department.
All right. Officer DeMello, I want to focus your attention to the evening of October 14th, 2023 at approximately 1:40 a.m. in Merrimack Street. Can you tell the commission where you were?
Absolutely. I was heading for Trend to assist with bar closings.
And when you arrived at Trend, can you tell the commission what you observed?
I observed hundreds of people that I immediately identified to be riled up, yelling at each other, cursing at each other, and pushing each other.
And when you saw those people pushing each other and punching each other, what did you do?
I immediately radioed LPD dispatch. I informed them that there was multiple fights breaking between the areas of the Trend sidewalk, street, and across the street. And then as myself and my partner, XR Lacos, exited the cruiser, we engaged with the people that were acting.
All right, and then when you started engaging with the people, can you tell us what happened next?
Yes, so they didn't phase. They continued to fight each other, even though I had to push a few people away from each other, making in an attempt to stop them from hurting each other, which didn't do much.
And Officer DeMello, as a result of this fight near in front of Trend, were you injured during the course of?
I was, yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So as I was separating a group that was kicking and punching a male on the ground, there was multiple people there. I was attempting to grab someone that was punching him on the face area away from him. I was someone punched me in the face on my left side, and I also, as I was pulling people away from each other, I stumbled and I fell on my hand.
And following the bar fight, what were your injuries, sir?
So I had to go to Lowell General Hospital, Saints, for my hand was injured.
And approximately how long have you had physical pain as a result of the fight?
I was able to return to, so I only missed 1 day of work, I was able to return with my motion. As soon as I regained my full motion of my hand, I still feel a little pain here and there.
And regarding the fight itself, any of the people that you observed fighting in front of Trend, did they appear intoxicated to you?
Absolutely.
And did any of the people you observed fighting, did they indicate that they had been drinking at Trend specifically?
They were in that general area, and I did observe a few of them in the immediate area of Trend.
And you indicated in the police report that this fight occurred in front of Kung Fu Tea, Dunkin' Donuts, and Trend. Were any of those other businesses where this fight was occurring open for business other than Trend at the time of the fight?
No.
All right. Thank you, sir. City Solicitor has no further questions. I'll defer to the Commission if the Commission has any questions.
Counselor, rebuttal?
I'm sorry that you were injured. Are you aware of what time the last safe and deposit closes that's also located on Merrimack Street? Are you aware of what time the last safe and deposit closes that's also located on Merrimack Street?
I have a question.
Hold on. Secretary Pius, just for the record, what is the license, last safe and deposit? What is their closing time?
I believe it's 2 a.m.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Howe?
You may have already, I have a question, sorry. You may have already testified. When you were injured, when you were punched in the face, specifically, where were you located?
I was on the sidewalk by across from Trend, and
Across the street from
Yes.
Trend?
Yes.
So in front of the Dunkin' Donuts?
It'd be a little. So it was directly across from Trend.
Kung Fu Tea.
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
And when you first arrived, how much time expired until the time that you observed the crowd coming out to the time that you were hit?
Maybe a minute. A minute, 2 minutes, maybe.
So it happened very fast?
Yes.
Thank you.
Solicitor?
Solicitor now calls Officer Exarlakos.
State your name for the record, sir.
Officer Exarlakos, Lowell Police Department.
Thank you.
All right. Officer, were you with Officer DeMello in car 4 on October 14th, 2023 at 1:40 a.m.?
I was.
All right. And could you tell us what you first observed when you arrived at Trend?
So as myself and my partner arrived at Trend, we immediately were alerted to that large crowd of people. They were kind of throwing like a lot of hand gestures, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling. It was very clearly, an indication that a large fight was taking place.
And could you give us your best estimate, sir, of how many people were in that crowd?
Between 250 to 300 people.
And after you observed that crowd fighting, what did you do, sir?
Right as soon as my partner raided it in, we immediately approached the crowd, began giving commands, yelling for people to stop very loudly. We were physically pushing people off of one another and trying to separate what appeared to be the line of people fighting from both sides of the crowd.
And specifically, sir, I want to turn your attention to the incident that Officer DeMello mentioned when he was struck in the face by one of the patrons. Did you observe that, sir?
I did.
And can you tell me what you did in response?
So as soon as I observed the male who punched my partner in the face, I immediately came up from behind him and tried to grab him from around his waist and pull him away to separate him from other people because I determined at that point that person was going to be placed under arrest.
And were you ultimately able to arrest that person?
I was.
During the course of your struggle with that individual, were you injured as a result of this fight?
I was.
All right, can you tell me about that?
So as I was bringing the male to the ground because he was not complying with my commands and not ceasing his behavior, we eventually got to the ground and I gashed my elbow on the sidewalk at some point. This gash was a pretty deep cut and ended up getting infected. I was seen at Lowell General Hospital for it, but that was really not the end of it, as it were.
What do you mean by not being the end of it?
So it just was a continuous problem. It's not like I was seeing it at Lowell General and then the problem resolved. It lasted for about a month that I was out of work, and I had to go to several follow-up visits and several different urgent cares or ERs to try and get it back to normal.
Are you still currently receiving treatment in connection with your injuries?
No, it has since healed, and I am back to work.
Counselor, can I interrupt you for 1 second? I just want to clarify this because if not, I'll forget. Was it Sergeant Boyle, Captain Peasy, who was here?
Sergeant Lally and Lieutenant Coyle.
Lieutenant Coyle. He said that it was 164 people.
That's the count that he was depending upon on the bouncer. That doesn't.
Okay. Are we now, officer just said between 200 and 250 people came out of the club. What is the capacity of Trend?
200.
You're convinced, officer, that there were more than 200 people coming out of Trent?
On the street?
On the street.
It would appear that there were more than 200 people, yes.
So I guess I'm wondering where 50 extra people came from.
So again, they weren't handing out receipts or
Right.
Any kind of true count numbers. So Lieutenant Coyle was relying on the truthfulness of the doorman at the time.
Okay, I'll buy that.
All right. Officer Exelakos, one more question regarding the people fighting. Did the people who were fighting, any of them appear intoxicated to you?
Absolutely.
And did any of the people you observed fighting in front of Trend indicate they had been drinking at Trend specifically?
No.
Okay. You stated in your report that Trend had, quote, an extensive history of events, including assaults, batteries, stabbings, and other violent offenses that have occurred. What can you tell the commission about Lowell PD's history with Trend, sir?
So I've been on the late night shift for the past year, and within that year, I've seen examples of those incidents that I referenced in that report firsthand. Off the top of my head, I can think of at least 6. And they all stem from that location.
Thank you. Solicitor has no further questions for Officer Exelakos. I'll defer if anyone has any further questions.
Counselor, do you have any questions for?
So with respect to the other incidents that you mentioned, were they located on Merrimack Street, or what incidents are you referring to? Can you give some more details? Because this is the first time Trend has ever had a compliance issue.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Hold on a second. I'm not sure this is relevant.
It's not relevant.
Understood.
It really isn't.
we can move on.
Let's
Yeah,
stay. Let's stay.
we're not taking any alleged prior under consideration.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not go that way.
All right. I have no further questions. If anyone else has any questions. All right.
Nope.
Officer, you're excused. Thank you. And finally, city calls Officer Nicole Manera.
State your name for the record, sir.
Officer Monera, Lowell Police Department.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Officer Manera, can you tell the commission where you were on October 14th, 2023 at 1:40 a.m.?
I was in Middle and Palmer. Basically, we dispersed each other based on how many numbers do we have. I was in Middle and Palmer with another partner, Officer Reese.
And can you tell us how you ultimately arrived at Trend that evening?
How do I arrive to?
Sure. When did you first learn that officers were in need of assistance at Trend?
So while I was with Officer Reese, we basically heard an Officer DeMello over the radio stating that he needed more units at Trend, that there was multiple fights. After that, my Officer Reese and myself, we ran all across to Central Merrimack.
And when you ultimately arrived, can you tell the commission what you observed?
I observed a large crowd around Officer DeMello and Officer Exarchopoulos.
And can you estimate how large was that crowd, approximately how many people?
They were dispersed, about 250 to 300 people.
Okay. And where specifically was the crowd? Where was it nearby?
It was dispersed between Trent, Kung Fu T, I believe, if I say it right, and in front of Dunkin' Donuts.
And did you observe during the course of this fight people leaving from Trend and going into the crowd to fight?
Yes, I observed people leaving from Trent.
And approximately how many people did you see leaving from Trend and going into the crowd to fight?
It was too many to count. I just saw people dispersing from there.
Once again, Counselor, I don't mean to interrupt you. Would you say there were more than 200?
Yes, sir.
And during the course of that fight, did you observe the incident with Officer DeMello and Officer Exarlakos attempting to arrest the individual who attacked them?
When I arrived there with multiple units, we tried to disperse the crowd. I saw Officer DeMello basically pushing people away from Officer Exarchopoulos. He was trying to arrest one of the individuals.
And approximately how many, before backup was called, approximately how many Lowell PD officers were there trying to break up the fight?
Every staff that we had, we just have to call for different units to be able to assist.
And when you say different units, which other units were called in order to try and break up this fight at Trent?
The Drake was called, Chancellor was called, State, UMass Lowell.
And Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions if the Commission has any other questions.
All right. Counselor, do you have anything? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am. Your excuse.
All right. I'm going to defer to the other commissioners for questions they may have. Counselor Howe?
I don't have-
Commissioner Howe, sorry. Counselor, too.
I don't have any questions. I just, the beer pong, given that recent case, I think it's probably a good idea for the establishment to just not allow it.
Sure, absolutely.
Also, the cover charge issue is obviously, that can be rectified, and I appreciate the extra security. The minor jumping the fence, I appreciate that explanation. The biggest problem I have is the people spilling out onto Merrimack Street, and knowing the police were in there on compliance check beforehand. The regulation is very clear that the licensee has to maintain the area adjacent to the premises. And in the regulation, it actually says if something happens right outside the premises that becomes a focal point for police attention, the licensee may be held in violation. So not only was it a focal point for police attention, it was the Lowell Police, the UMass Lowell, Drake, Chelmsford, we have officers injured. So that, I mean, I go back to Willie Tops many years ago. They didn't do anything. There was fighting in the place, and they let the place out, and some poor kid got killed. So the biggest problem I have with this is the melee after and the failure to control and the injured police officers. I mean, someone could have been killed. So that's my opinion, and I can make a motion, but other people want to talk.
Commissioner Kariga.
Yeah, I'm a little confused still by the crowd size. 165 in the building is the limit. But yet we had one person testify they saw 250 to 300 people. Granted, it's easy to make a mistake, to exaggerate how many people, but still, the sense is that there were people from elsewhere, or the trend was overcrowded, and I haven't reconciled that in my mind yet.
Commissioner Mercia? Commissioner Tang?
Yeah, actually, I just got a couple of quick questions. Who's the manager of record that night? Who was
The man is on Zoom.
What's that?
Lawrence Kutakis, he's on Zoom.
Lawrence Cox. And Evan was the one that was on duty that night as the manager.
Correct.
Okay. And if I can just get back to it, I may have missed something. You were talking about the people jumping the fence in the back. So is it your contention that the 20-year-old, that's how they get in to the
Yes.
bar? Okay, I agree with my fellow commissioners. It's when you have officers get hurt, when you have to call an aid, aid from 3 or 4 different police departments to help out. I think that's a serious violation. And it didn't seem like the trend was doing what they were supposed to control the crowd or even to stop anything. And like Commissioner Howe said, the police were already in there beforehand, so that should have given some kind of heads up. But, okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Tang?
I just have a few things to ask. Actually, how many bartenders at that night serving customer?
3.
3? Are they all properly trained?
Yeah, they all have tip certification and serve safe.
You know, I believe if they got into fight, probably they been served too much alcohol, you know. So, you know, that's something you have to look into.
Okay.
So, just on that.
Oh, sure. Go right ahead. Yeah.
Like, our pricing kind of reflects that. So, like, we don't have cheap liquor like a lot of other places do that kind of influence the ease of being able to consume alcohol at an endless rate. A lot of people actually complain about us being a little bit more expensive than everybody else. So we do sort of, through pricing, try to combat that. So, you know, you can't drink 3 bottles, 4 bottles like you can at other places for $200, $300. At our establishment, it is a bit more expensive to do so.
You know what, yeah, but my point is, if you see that the person you're serving probably intoxicated, you shouldn't serve more, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know, so it depends on the person.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all.
Commissioner Krieger?
What would you say is the average age, the trend in age at the trend? Is this a young crowd? Is this a middle-aged crowd?
It depends on the night. Typically, it's anywhere between 25 to 35. We have some older groups that come in that are nurses and doctors and things like that on Sunday nights. A lot of our clientele on Sunday nights actually works at Lowell General and things like that. So it depends on the night, yeah.
And Trend, I just want to say, you know, does a lot of work with the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce and hosts events. You know, certainly, despite some other representations, this is an outlier of, you know, how they've been in the community, at least for the last year. Extremely unfortunate, and we hear all the suggestions and anything that can be done to circumvent situations in the future will be done. You know, one example and why security cameras were so pivotal in our earlier discussion is because as of this incident, there was no footage of the street. So there's no way other than our clicker counters, which I know a representation was made earlier, that it was on the truthfulness of the bouncers. They're actually hand clicking to show that there were 164 patrons that night. But we actually don't have footage of the street, and now we do.
So, Counselor or Mr. Kazakis, what do you say to the Lowell Police Department that they seem pretty adamant that there were at least 200 to 250, possibly 300 people going out to the sidewalk?
If I had to do their job, I would think the same thing. I'm not going to lie about that. But, like, there's a difference between perception and reality. You know what I mean? If you're fighting off a bunch of people, a lot of things go running through your mind. You know what I mean? It's not just a matter of
Understood.
that, you know.
So this is where I'm coming from. Having owned a bar myself, the person, the big kahuna is the one who's in charge. That's the manager of record, okay? And if the manager of record can't be at the establishment, then needs a person that knows the rules and regulations of the Lowell License Commission. So Lawrence Kritakis didn't do his job in teaching his brother how to run an establishment. All right? I know this is Trent's first time in front of this commission, but this incident, with as many officers that were there from 4 or 5 different communities, had to be called. To me, the place was out of control. And no disrespect, Mr. Kritakis, I don't think you know what you're doing. Sorry. I don't think your brothers told you the rules and regulations. And I asked him, and I can vividly remember when we gave him the license, I said, make sure you know the rules and regulations. And he said, without a doubt. So I blame him. I don't blame you. I blame
John,
him.
May I just cut in?
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Somebody could have died there that night. So I hope we're all taking this very, very seriously. I, for one, am very upset about this. Of course, you hear rumors on the street, that the place is out of control, this and that. And I hope we never see you here again. But understanding, I know that you're on the agenda in 2 weeks, too. So I hope, Evan, if you don't mind me calling you Evan, I just don't want to get confused with your brother, that you know the rules and regulations of the Lowell License Commission. There were a lot of misconduct in that night. I mean, this is bartending 101, how to run an establishment. You don't know about cover charges. 101. Mr. Kotakis, I know you had something to say. Go right ahead.
Thank you, and I apologize for.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just want to make it clear that I was under the understanding that I had sold the business in its entirety and I was no longer on record at all. And then it was brought to my attention by John Pyers after I had received a letter from counsel, who's there currently with my brother, saying that I was all set and I had been removed. And only finding out from John did I know I was still involved in this. And then I personally called the ABCC, got a confirmation, all the info that was needed, called back Amanda, who's there now, the counsel, let her know exactly who it was that she needed to contact with because she told me she did not complete it all. So I just want to make it clear because I can see your frustration, and I took everything you said to me very seriously that day, and I never wanted to show any form of disrespect. So I just want to make it clear that I was under the impression that I was no longer a part of the business in any way.
All right, let me stop you there. I'm going to ask your counsel. Did you tell him he was all set?
I had reported after the Lowell License Commission that the package had gone to the ABCC.
But that does not mean that the manager of record had changed yet.
That is what he's referring to.
All right, but once again, he was still the manager of record.
And he's been made aware of that through these conversations that we've had since.
But I believe I was off record since I sold it like a year prior to this incident. I didn't find out till a good time afterwards.
Okay.
So once again, I'm really sorry for everything. I don't want you to be frustrated with me because I respect you very dearly.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Howe, did you?
I'd like to make a motion to find that the Regulation 1.12 of the Lowell License Commission was violated with the melee outside, was very serious. It's a violation of the license, and it's subject to suspension. I make a motion that there be a 3-day suspension with 1 day held in abeyance.
To be clear, the motion is to suspend for 3 days, holding 1 day in abeyance. And how long are you holding that in abeyance, Commissioner Howe?
6 months.
Second, any further discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Commissioner Dakota.
Yes.
Commissioner Mercier.
Yes.
Commissioner Howe.
Yes.
Commissioner Krieger.
Yes.
Commissioner Tang.
Yes.
5 in favor.
Commissioner Howe, today is December 14th. Secretary Pyers, how long of a leeway do we give you? I'm thinking that we do something like January 5th and 6th. That's a Friday and a Saturday. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mercier. Roll call.
Commissioner Dakota.
Yes.
Commissioner Howe.
Yes.
Commissioner Mercier.
Yes.
Commissioner Krieger.
Yes.
Commissioner Tang.
Yes.
5 in favor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Counsel.
Thank
you,
you.
Ms. Kotakis. Have a good night.
And happy holidays.
Thanks.
You as well.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Officers, detectives, everybody else, thank you very much for your testimony tonight.
Thank you.
Last item, communication from Gregory Hooden, Superintendent of Police, dated November 29th, 2023, regarding allegations of misconduct charged against Catcher's Mitt Pub, Incorporated, 726 Gorham Street, Tracy Flynn, license manager, all alcoholic beverages restaurant licensee. Allegations of misconduct occurred on November 22nd, 2023, and include violations of Mass General Law Chapter 138, Section 16, changing or tampering with alcoholic beverages, and Section 1.06, compliance of all laws and regulations of the alcoholic beverages regulations for licenses issued by the Lowell License Commission.
I've been alerted by the city solicitor's office that there could be some scheduling issues. So, John, what is the first meeting in January?
Give me just a sec.
Mr. Chairman, I believe it's January 11th, 2024.
Sound right, John?
Yes, that sounds right.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Mercia, seconded by Commissioner Tang, to hold a meeting on January 11th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed. Anything further, John?
Motion to adjourn?
Nope. One last thing, administrative review of actions taken by El Jefe Taco Bar Incorporated, 203 Cabot Street, Pedro Aguirre, licensed manager, all alcoholic beverages restaurant licensee. To meet the requirements of their violation hearing on November 9th, 2023, staff have been recertified through TIPS 360 training. Surveillance systems have been upgraded, and an ID scanner has been installed. All these things have been confirmed.
Very good.
Excellent.
Very good. Motion by Commissioner Howe to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, happy holidays. Everyone have a good night.